Hey crafters, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our measuring tape favor box. This was intended for Father's Day, but of course, if it's Dad's birthday, you can also make it for his birthday. It does just say Best Dad, so I think it's still applicable. And of course, if you're savvy enough, you can obviously add your own text. So we're going to start off by just kind of getting rid of some pieces by assembling some simple things. We're going to start off with this circle here and this one here. This one's a little bit smaller, and you can see that there are a series of little cutouts. And what we want to do here is just make sure that we line up the cutouts so that they match up. And this is going to save us time and a lot of frustration because we won't have to glue down individual letters. Everything is just going to magically appear using this little negative cutout method. Okay, so we've got that glued down. Next, we're going to take this layer here that has, I guess, the bulk of the caption built into it. And then just try to get a few little dots of glue on these small little areas on the E and the S so that they don't rip. And if you get too much glue on there, just hit it with your finger to thin it out. And what we need to do here is just match those little cutouts with the letters so that the one that looks like a little equal sign sits right in the center of the B, and the cutouts for the two D's and the A match up as well, just like that. And then we're going to take this piece, and you'll notice that there's a series of little markers there, and that's to help you with the alignment of this piece. And this brown part's also going to be flush with the top of this black piece as well. So of course, even though we have the markers, you do want to just kind of visually inspect it just to make sure that you've got it right. And then this should be nice and horizontal there. Then let's find our little mustache. We're going to glue that into place. And you'll notice that there are some markers there for the mustache as well. Just pop that into the areas where we have the markers, and there is that. Okay, so one other thing too I want to mention here is we have a series of pieces that are labeled. This one has an L on it, okay, as well as a B, and then this one has a little B and a tab, okay, and then these do not have any labels on them. They're round on one side and squared off on another side. Okay, those are going to be on the exterior of the mechanism, and then you have this funky looking thing. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Okay, but what we can do real quick here is just get a few pieces out of the way. I have my texture side up. We're going to find the overlays that fit onto these pieces. You can see round on one side, square on the other, round and square. And on this one, you have two little half circles, and these are little gift card holders. So you do not want to put glue on the little half circles, but you can put glue on the rest of it. So let's just get this one glued into place. Again, avoid those little half circles. We want them to be free floating so we can put our little gift card in there. I'm going to match up the front of this where it's nice and square. Get that right on there. You can kind of feel with your fingers if you've got it lined up properly, and then just work your way around making sure that that's sitting on there nicely. Again, making sure we don't glue these down. Perfect. Then we'll do the same thing to the other side. Get that glued down. And I'm going to match up the front of this little square section on the bottom right, I guess it would be. Kind of holding it in a weird angle. But yeah, that would be the bottom right. Just follow all the way around. Press that down like so. Okay. And while we have this here, we can actually take this caption now. We're going to put it right here. It's going to go flush up against this little edge here. And you also just want to make sure that this line is nice and straight. Okay, so we can apply our glue to this entire piece now. and pop that onto this overlay. Again, just make sure you've got it nice and flush, and also that this is nice and straight right here. Perfect. Okay, so this can go away for now. One other thing that we can do is take these two pieces. This is the actual tape measure, well, at least the illusion of it. We're not actually going to have it extend out or go in. That would be, I think, a little too much work to make it that real. Okay, so this is going to go right on here, just match it up. And I got a little bit of glue on my fingers there, which is not good when you're dealing with foil. Do your best to get that lined up as accurately as possible. Press that down, it should look like that, and we can put that off to the side. Okay, so this piece here and this piece here, these are going to be overlays that we're going to use after we get the main structure put together. In the meantime, we do have a little additional 3D element that we're going to glue together, and this is going to be the little lid that closes everything. There are two little half circles. We'll use those in a minute, and then there are two kind of jaggedy half circles with some tabs. Okay, and this is the piece that we're going to need to create the 3D structure here. And with this piece, with all the teeth, what you want to do is make sure it's all nice and flat so that the teeth stay out of the way. Grab yourself a little dowel and place it at the very edge or bottom or end of one of the ends, and then have your finger there on the bottom holding it in place as well. Lift it up about 45 degrees and then just run the dowel through. What that does is kind of releases the paper fibers to kind of train it so it's almost like a half circle. Okay, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to glue this into place. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these two pieces that have the little tabs on them, and they're essentially the half circles, but they're kind of jagged, and let's push some of these push all the tabs in on one side. Okay, and what we're going to do is, just to begin anchoring this, throw a little dot of glue on one of the tabs, then take this piece and get the tip of this aligned with the very tip there, the very edge, and let's get that first little tab glued into place. And you want to push that up against this little piece as far as it'll go, and just hold that in place for just a second until it's set. Okay, so it should look like that on the bottom. These two tabs should basically be on the same plane lined up. Okay, and what we're going to do is going to take and glue the rest of the tabs to the outside of this little piece. Okay, and there's a much easier way of doing this now that we have that first one anchored. You can go ahead and take a little bit of glue and just put it on. Let's just do two at a time. Push those in. Okay, then what you can do is, as long as those tabs are underneath, you can then take and push this, use your table, push this piece up against this piece that I'm holding with my left finger as far as it'll go, and then push down from the inside to help those tabs make contact with this little structural piece. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, don't worry about all that excess glue sitting there. You could technically, if you wanted to, you don't have to use your table. You can just take a little bit of glue and apply it, and then press it down from the outside and hold it down like so, and that's fine too. We're just gluing the tabs around this curve to the outside of this little skeleton piece. Okay, but I've found over the years that utilizing my table makes it a lot easier. So I'll just apply glue to the remaining three tabs. Okay, and then again, I'm going to tuck those over, and I'm going to tuck them underneath this shape, and I'm going to push with this hand, push that up against this piece as far as it'll go while I'm pressing down with this finger here that I'm kind of rocking back and forth to help the two pieces kind of make contact. And then the end result is all of those tabs glued to this little skeleton piece. And you can see here we're kind of creating a round dimensional box. Okay, so we're going to fold all of these tabs in now. We're going to grab this other piece, and this one should be a little bit easier since we already kind of have that shape. We're going to tuck that in like so, and we're going to glue these tabs to the outside of this shape. The important thing here is just to make sure that we have it aligned correctly. So it's probably a good idea to, again, just anchor it with maybe 1 or 2 tabs first. I think 1 is probably easier than trying to do 2. And just also make sure that these large tabs are all on the same plane, ultimately. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that first one in place just to get everything nice and anchored. Just press that down now that I know I have it in the right spot. Okay, there we go. Now we can tuck it in. And the beauty of this one now that we already have the shape is I think we can probably do this all in one fell swoop now. So what you can do is apply your glue to the remaining tabs, tuck all of those tabs under. Okay, as long as they're underneath this shape, you can then take and push everything up against that piece, and then with your finger inside, push down on those tabs. So the table's kind of acting as almost like a third hand for us. Okay, see? You can see all those tabs, with the exception of one that maybe didn't get enough glue. All those tabs are nice and glued down to the face of this. And now if you look, you'll notice that if you fold all of these tabs in, they're literally on the same plane. That's where this piece comes into play. What we're going to do is glue that to the bottom. Let's glue that to just one of the sections to get that anchored as well. And obviously this is not a perfect square, it's a rectangle. So go ahead and glue it to just one of the longer sides. Okay. Make sure that's nice and centered. And then you can flare this out just a little bit, and we'll apply glue to the 3 remaining tabs and close it up. It's basically kind of like a box. Especially for those of you that are new, you'll notice that if you do make one of our boxes, when we're working on like a lid or something, it's going to be roughly the same sort of concept. All right, now I'm just using my table to kind of press down on all 3 of those tabs. And there is the main structure there. Okay, and now obviously to kind of close off and pretty up those little tabs there, we're going to take these 2 pieces and glue them to the outside to cover that up. So I'll just put glue on this entire thing and just pop it right on there. Just make sure it's nice and centered and flush, and press and hold that down. And that covers everything up, makes everything look nice and seamless. You can push that down on your surface, on your table if you want. I'll grab the other one, do the same thing. And get that on there. That flat part of it, just make sure that's aligned with the very bottom. You can kind of use your finger to feel to make sure that it's all nice and flush. Okay. So again, we're working with paper here. Things are, their paper's pretty malleable, and it may not be super perfect, but mine turned out pretty darn good. If you have any little gaps in any of the areas, you can grab yourself a scrap piece of paper, throw a little bit of glue right on that scrap, and just kind of tuck it into any of the areas that maybe you're not making good contact, and just press and hold that until it's nice and seamless. I think that might have happened when I was kind of squeezing the sides a little bit. Okay, so now what we can do is take a look at our main structure here. Okay, and these small little rounded flaps are the front of the box. And actually what's going to happen is we're not going to put any glue on these. Those are just kind of seal the sides, and this is the little door that's going to open and close. Okay, but before we do that, we're going to take these 2 pieces, and you'll notice that you have 2 of these rectangles. One has a little L on it and one does not. Grab the one that does not have the L on it, and we're going to get this glued onto this tab. You want the edge of this to basically line up with this set of score lines here. So when you glue that down, you want it to just kind of continue on. Okay, so let's get some glue going on this. And I'm going to take and spread that glue out to the very edge. I always like to do that. It makes things look nice and seamless. And you can easily just put this down flat. I think it's a lot easier that way to make sure that you've got it lined up properly. And if you have one of these mats, it's even more helpful just to kind of use it to see if this score mark and the edge of this are lining up nicely. Okay, and you can take this and fold it over onto itself. Kind of feel and make sure that that's lined up nicely, and it is. Okay, there we go. And then grab this other piece. This one's going to go right here, like so, and just make sure that these two are on the same side. Okay, so again, I'm going to use this edge here. Actually, you can flip this over. Okay, you can see this edge right here where this little tiny flap is. I'm going to line that up like so. So let's get our glue flowing here. And then we just have one more piece to glue down for the structure, and that's that wonky looking thing over there. And then we can start actually putting this thing together. So line that up nicely. There we go. And fold that onto itself. Press down. Okay. There we go. One more thing we need to do here is connect this last piece, and this piece is going to go back here. You can see this set of score lines here. You need to get that glued right into place right there. And then these score lines should kind of continue with this edge here. Just make sure that's nice and straight. Okay. So go ahead and apply your glue to this piece here. And this is also going to act as an anchor just to make sure that everything goes together nicely. Okay, so line that up. Put that right there, like so. Press that down. So we're kind of just piecing all the necessary pieces together before we start making things dimensional. Okay, now you're going to want to take these tabs and flare them to the outside, like so. And then all we're going to do is glue these tabs to the outside of this little structure. Okay, so it's already anchored, which is half the battle. And I'm going to start on the side that does not have the little cutout. Okay. Do a few tabs at a time. This is the side with the little cutout. I'm going to start with the side that does not have the cutout. And we're simply going to take and tuck it under. We've got glue on those tabs. You want to kind of pull this to make it taut. Make sure your tabs stay under. And I'm pushing up against the skeleton piece as I'm pressing down with my finger on the inside. Okay. And I'm going to keep that up against the skeleton piece as close as possible. And that's kind of what it should look like. And then all you need to do next is pull away a few more of these tabs and then just continue down the row. And just do as many as you feel comfortable with. Again, make sure you tuck those tabs under, tuck them under, make sure you're following the natural curve of this piece. And then press down with your fingers to get those to connect. And there you have it. Okay, so just working our way around. We'll flare a few more out. Do as many as you feel comfortable with. I'm doing about 5 or 6 at a time. Could probably get away with doing more, but go at your own pace. If you're feeling super adventurous, maybe you could do them all in one fell swoop. I wouldn't recommend that. I like to just do little sections at a time, just like that. And there you go. Okay, keep on cruising here. And maybe, just maybe, I might do 7 or 8 this time. Okay, Okay, tuck those tabs under. You can move this out of the way for now. Make it easier for your fingers to get in there. Keep pushing that up against the skeleton piece and then bring it in. There we go. Just like that. There you can see how that's looking really nice. And finally, just a few more to go to close up this one side. And then we're going to essentially repeat the same process on the other side. If we do this, it should just kind of match up perfectly right at the end there. Make sure you have it pushed up against this little piece as far as it'll go. There we go. Let's take a look and see where this terminates. Terminates exactly where it needs to. This is going to be our little opening and closing mechanism, but you can see, perfect. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take this piece. It has a little cutaway. Okay. And we are going to, now we got this little cutout here. We are not going to be able to use our table for this because there's nothing to push up against, but this is why we have the cutout. Okay. Can kind of put our hand inside. So here, check it out. I'm just going to take and got one finger under there. I'm still pushing up against the little skeleton piece, but now instead I'm just using my fingers to kind of squeeze the tabs into place. It's the simplest way to do this while ensuring that everything stays nice and, well, symmetrical and precise. Okay, so with this one here, probably you want to do less tabs. Again, just make sure you're kind of following the curve of this thing. There we go. We've got one more here. Just pushing this up against this little skeleton piece as far as it'll go, and there it is. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit of slower going here. Since we can't do as many, we don't want the glue to dry prematurely while we're doing this, so we got to take our time. But it'll look nice when it's done. There's another one, and there's another one. We've got glue on two more. There's another one, and one more. Pushing that up against that skeleton piece as far as it'll go. Okay, let's make sure all the tabs are out. Okay, let's do a few more here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think as you get towards the end, you could probably get away with doing a few more since it's sort of naturally going to start taking on its shape. We have that other side already put together, and it's already following that natural curve, which is kind of helping this side find its way. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll tuck that under. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3, 4, and 5, and 6. All right, almost there. This is probably, well, I would say this is the most challenging part of the project, but it's really not that bad. For those of you that have been crafting along with me for a long time, this is not your first rodeo when it comes to a 3D project like this, so you should feel pretty at home working on this one. I've got 3 left. There's 1, 2, 3. Tuck that in. Press that up against that skeleton piece as far as it goes. There we go. You can see that goes in there nicely. Perfect. Okay. Now, while we have this in this position, you can take your glue, throw a little bit of glue on those tabs inside. Okay, and you could do it one of 2 ways. You can slide it through the front, or you can slide it through this little hole. Just put your liner in there. Make sure it is nice and centered there. That's gonna kind of sturdy things up a little bit. There we go. These are gonna tuck in. That's gonna close like so. Okay, now while we have this like this, what we're gonna do, you can take the little tape measure part of it, and that is, whoops, where did that come from? That's because I closed this up prematurely. That's okay. This is going to get, you can see there's a series of little markers here. That's going to get glued right there. So let's get that in place. Nice and easy. Just get that lined up. The set of markers just above this are for this dimensional piece that we put together previously. I'm going to put that on last. Typically do that with dimensional pieces. There's a marker here, and that's for this piece here. Now if you want, you can take and place this between your finger and the dowel, lift it up about 20 degrees, and run the dowel through to give it a little bit of a curve. What we're going to do is we're going to glue this down here, and that's going to terminate right here. There's also a set of score lines here, right there at the very bottom there, right by the tabs for the opening and for the door, I should say. I don't know what I was trying to call it. Pop that right there, get that nice and centered. Make sure it's not obstructing the little door. There we go, that's nice. You can actually make sure you put enough glue on there, especially along the very edges. You want those to stay put for us. Nice and centered, there we go. Okay, you can push from the inside. You still have that little hole for the opening, which is nice. Okay, and then let's tuck this in for now, get it out of the way. Now this is only going to go on one way. Okay, so this is going to go on like this, and the other one's going to go on the same way, just on the other side. Okay, so this is going to be the back where we put our little gift card. So a couple ways of doing this. I would recommend probably just to put glue on this part here. Since we have that gap there, we don't really know. Well, for one, you don't really need to put any glue on that area that doesn't have anything to glue it to. It would just kind of be a waste of glue. So this would be a better idea. Move this little mechanism out of the way so we don't accidentally get glue on it. Kind of dabbing this with my finger to thin it out. And then grab this piece. Let's remove any excess glue. And I'm going to pop this right on there. Just make sure that the front corner is lined up nicely. And then work your way around, making sure it's all lined up nicely all the way around. Okay, now if you're using black paper like I am, be careful not to blemish that paper with any glue on your fingers. That black paper is not very forgiving. Okay, you can then take that and push that down on your surface. You can push down from the inside as well, if necessary. And check your seams, just make sure everything is nice and flush. You got this little area here that maybe could use a little extra love. That looks good. Okay, so you can see how that tucks in. There's that one side, and that just leaves one more side here. You can go ahead and apply your glue to the other half. Okay, maybe get that out of the way. Let's get that glue out to the edges. But with this one here, you can throw a little bit of glue there. That's fine. Let's spread that glue out. Right out to the very, very edge. And I'm going to line this up with the square section here on the front, first and foremost, and then just kind of work my way around, making sure it's lining up with everything else. And that is beautiful. You can put that down on your surface if it helps. You can push down from the inside, or just continue just kind of pressing down. That looks great. Got ourselves a tape measure. Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's going to fold in like that. Okay, so for this final little piece here, we have a black overlay that's going to start from this point here. It's going to go all the way around up to about here. But in order to do that, now obviously this is a pretty tight little curve here. So on one end, what I want you to do is take a thicker dowel and place it about, just about there, maybe 2 lengths away from the edge. And then take and try to evenly lift this up. And you can see what happens there. Kind of naturally gives it that curve, which will allow it to kind of hug that corner nicely. And that should terminate pretty much right to this point here where the other one is. Okay. As long as we get that lined up accurately, that's how it should end up. And I may just do that one more time to make it a little more pronounced. Make sure it's even. There we go. If you don't have a dowel, you can try using like a Sharpie maybe. Something soft and round. And that looks nice, okay? So here's what we'll do. I'm going to start by, I'm just going to apply glue to this whole thing, especially down here towards the edge. And then we're going to make sure we get glue along the very edge of the other side. Okay, and then along the sides. You want this to basically be butting up to that little score mark there. Make sure it's centered as possible. And very gently, I'm going to just kind of press that up against the structure. I'm using my fingers here to kind of feel, to make sure that it's good and centered. Make sure it's making good contact throughout, all the way until we get to the top. We're going to hold that right there like so. And if you have a little bit of that, orange showing through, you can always take a little bit of ink and just kind of hit that with a little bit of ink, but keep holding this down until that glue is completely set. Okay, don't let go, because there's a little bit of resistance here. This thing does want to peel off at this point. It's just not used to being in this position, so we want to keep this in place while it sets. Okay, I have a little bit of a gap on one side here, which I can easily fix by just taking a little bit of glue on a scrap piece of paper and kind of painting it in between, and then pressing and holding that down. Just kind of pushing that down. Close up that little seam, okay? So we can tuck that in. And last but not least, we'll take this dimensional piece, and that's going to get glued on like so. We don't want it like this. We want it like this. Okay. So you could go a little bit heavier with the glue on this, since I guess it's not that it's heavy, it's just that it's dimensional. And pop that on there. Make sure it kind of continues with this black piece here. Give that a few minutes to dry. You can actually open this up and push down from underneath. Don't push too hard. I don't want you to crush this thing. There we go. Okay. And that's going to do it. So your compartment is ready to go. That looks great. And that is going to do it. Don't forget the little gift card on the back. And voila. So that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. For those of you that are just getting into our 3D stuff, it's not too bad. You just have to follow along. I think if you can make this, you can make anything from our collection of content. And if you make this or anything from our library of content, visit us on Facebook. Do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and about 47,000 of our closest crafty friends. And don't forget, this and I believe it's about 500 other SVG projects are available on Creative Fabrica under their All Access membership. So I'll see you there. And again, I look forward to crafting with you again.